So Hollie, on this one here, I was sitting here, and have you ever been doing like a coaching? You're going through like a webinar and you're typing things up and you're like, man, these are great ideas. And you're like, man, I got to start following some of these ideas with my content and things I'm doing as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I'm going through this and I'm like talking on this webinar. I'm like, guys, you got to know your audience. You got to be talking to their problems. And I'm like, we got to create some content around this too to like stay in front of people.
I absolutely love it. And as everyone can see that the title of this is talking about shifting your content during the pandemic. And then, obviously things have changed. The audience has changed. Their behaviors have changed. The way that they get information, everything. So I'm super excited to dive into it with you for sure.
Yeah. And that's why like one of the key ingredients for great content is like what keeps my audience up at night, right? Like what keeps them up at night and what keeps them, like what are some of those problems that are just nagging at them? And like, if you can help people solve those problems, they're obviously going to be able to tune into you. And that's why I think, especially, I mean, content is one thing, but like with the shift to content, with things that are happening during COVID, it's our content has to make the proper shifts, right? Like businesses have had to make shifts. Schools have had to make shifts. Hospitals, like all these different places had to make shifts. What makes us think our content is any different?
Absolutely. And what's interesting is you had posted a question that I saw the other day on Facebook, and I was going to ask you. So you posted like, do you think people are going to consume or watch videos in 2021? And I'm curious because obviously I know how you are. You're a very intense individual. So let's kick that off and see what's your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So like the whole purpose of that too is it was one of those like I know the answer to this question, but I need y'all, like I needed people to start thinking that same way too, right? Where it's one of those, hey guys, just curious. You guys think that people are going to watch more videos or less videos in 2021? And I think if everybody knows the slightest bit about any type of like virtual media stats, every year it almost like doubles. Sometimes it goes up tenfold from the previous year from the amount of video consumed. And I think it was just, so I got this idea because I was over my uncle's for like Thanksgiving party. They had the tree up, so I was thinking Christmas. But I was over there for like this Thanksgiving, like hurrah or whatever. And he was like, he's a manager of a FedEx branch. And he was saying their packaging, they're on pace for 2025. Like that what they're doing this year was on pace for 2025. And that made me think, I'm like, man, more people are making buying decisions right now online than they have projected. Why? Because of COVID. COVID has forced more people to go online and say, who's an authority? Based on what they find online, they're okay making buying decisions. So it got me thinking, I'm like, why is real estate any different? It's not. More people are going to be comfortable making buying decisions online, deciding who's an authority because of COVID, because it forced them to make these decisions.
100%. And so it's super crazy because I feel like, first off, we'll just lead right into, I think, the big pivot or the big shift, me personally, is, I was already doing some video, but I feel like within the pandemic, obviously people are more attached to their phones, they're more attached to social media, they're more attached somewhere, they're trying to connect with people because there's no live music going on, there's no live events going on, there's no seminars, things like that, what we're used to having that sense of community on. So personally, I'll just share, like, I feel like my content has shifted in the fact that it's more intentional, it's more video, and then it's also more around like branding myself. I mean, obviously I was already doing that.
Yeah.
It's been like 10 times because, finding ways to stand out to your audience, because now, like everyone's trying to get it's an attention seeking.
Yeah, and when you said that, I'm like, man, there's no shock that Hollie said, there's no live music. I'm like, wow, that's a big shock. Hollie said that first. Like, people can't go to concerts. People are freaking out. I'm like, yeah, that's how have you been doing with the no concerts thing and the live music?
You know what? It's been kind of like I enjoy, like, there'll be like some little places that have, like cover bands and stuff. Like there's and I enjoyed like so much of that because of like, I don't know. It's just crazy to see, like, supposed to see Matchbox 20 this year. And, I know Guns N' Roses were doing their tour and everybody. So
yeah,
it is what it is. But it's just interesting to see how the shift is. And even with the musicians too, like a lot of them are doing like live stream events. I saw MGK, I saw, but a lot of those musicians are, just collaborating, but then they're also doing a lot of the live events too.
Yeah, and on that note too, it's fun. I'm happy you brought that up. I was hoping you bring up something with like live events and music. So, with that being said, we did this thing. It was a Barrie Community Day. So it was a community day, where the person had like just local artists that came on there, local children that were coming on there doing little skits, like teachers that were doing like little art projects, and it was like a huge community day of like, what are we missing out on right now, and how can we help bring that to the community? So I thought that was like a great way to establish where are people at, what's in their headspace. Man, they're missing these live events. Like their kids are missing going to like these different creative places. And like they're missing seeing their friends. So he did it was like a 12-hour day of just straight people in the community. Like just some of them were just kids like singing a little bit or like going through some of their best played programs. And it was really good to see like him establish what does my community want to see and be able to bring that to them. I think that's what this comes down to too, is I wanted to dive into, what is keeping people up at night. And if you're a real estate agent, here's one that's worked absolute wonders for people we talk to. Interviewing somebody within your local school district, right? Because like parents are probably thinking, I'm sure, Hollie, you're a parent. You're thinking like, what's going on with our kids? Like, is it virtual? Is it at home? Like if they go into school, what do we have to prepare them for? Is it safe? Do they have to do X, Y, Z? These are things that people are constantly thinking about. So as an expert real estate agent, if we can bring on people to a show like this, somebody within the school district can ask them some of these questions. That's a way to get people in the community to tune in and really get to know your name as well.
100%. That's a fantastic idea. So you're spot on. So with real estate agents, what problems do your clients currently see right now? Obviously they can't see homes. I mean, in California, for instance, because showings are completely off the table right now, from my understanding. So you're not even showing a house right now. So virtual tours, it's said connecting with people too. So, identifying what's important when people are looking at buying a home. Obviously, number one, I feel like maybe just because I'm a parent, like you said, the school district. So identifying those authority people of the school district, because right now more than ever, they are like, they're wanting to get that message out, because it's so crazy, because I feel like right now people like almost attack the school system right now.
Right.
So finding ways to connect, and you're just building more rapport. And then also happen when that superintendent, that principal, that counselor, whoever it is that you interview, what's going to happen whether they need to sell a home? Who are they going to, or their friend?
That's true.
So win all the way around. So it's education, it's making that list, and then it's finding ways. So maybe you should do like a weekly show, like you said, maybe more reports. Maybe it's going through and saying, hey, instead of driving all over Egypt, finding builders, here's the top 5 builder incentives in the area, or whatever it is. So I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and like you said too, it's making that list of what people want to hear. It's like you said, the school districts. Everybody always says business owners, but it's also just saying like, what's everybody's favorite place to eat? Like what is this place doing differently right now? Maybe they have some different specials going on, and it's really just figuring out ways to stay interactive with everybody. Especially with COVID, what do people do? We always say social media. It's when you're lazy and bored, you go on social media. So let's find ways to make it interactive. And even more so, when you make it specific about communities and different places, and especially a place where I live, if I see like a restaurant that I know is like right down the street, I'm going to watch that video, right? So many times I see like, here's what's going on in the real estate market. And it's like nationwide stats. I'm like, that's cool and that helps, but that doesn't really mean much to me. If I see, here's what's going on in downtown Cleveland, right by Tower City's market stats. Of course, you won't be that specific, but I would tune into that, right? If I was your audience and I see what's going on around Tower City, I'd be like, oh, that's going to catch my attention right away. So it's when you can get very specific as an agent, that's when you can really start honing in on your audience. That's what this segment was about with you and I, was honing in on your audience.
100%.
Oh, go ahead.
once you identify, I mean, first you've got to obviously identify your avatar, identify your ideal client, your customer, are they first-time home owners? Yeah. Are they luxury clients? Are they military? There's just so many broad spectrums. And of course, as real estate agents, you're going to have multiple avatars because you're not going to service just one.
Right.
Right. Because a first-time home buyer has a lot more, not a lot more, but a lot different worries on their mind than, say, somebody who's moving into a luxury neighborhood or, or they're downsizing, whatever the case may be. Write down on your list, okay, so, new families or maybe empty nesters or, divorced couples. There's just a lot that you can go through and make a list of questions and the questions that they have. And then your content's simple. Just create that answer in a form of video, in a form of podcasting, in a form of, maybe it's a white paper, whatever it is, but right. The simplest way. So I think first and foremost is dialing in that audience. So Nick, what's your thoughts are on when it comes to creating that audience, what questions need to be asked to generate that?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, like you were saying, like the name, location, like how much they make, I think they're always needed when you're defining this. I also like diving deep into like, where do they like to eat? Where do they like to shop? What are their interests? What do they like? What do they don't like? What don't they like? And I think it's really important to do that because, again, how do I decide what businesses in different places to highlight? Well, where does my avatar like to shop? Yeah, let's go check out some of those places, or let's go shoot my video in front of some of those shops. So I think it can be really important and really capturing the attention, because a lot of the times the hardest thing to do is to capture people's attention in different ways, right? So when you can really start dialing in where they like to go and what they like to do, I think that can be very important. And then once we decide what the avatar is, Hollie, what do you see as the next steps? It's like, all right, I got my avatar. I figured out who they are. What is the next steps after that in creating content?
To me, the next steps is to make that list of what's their issues, what's their problems, because now you've got to help solve them and you got to let them know that you're the best out there that can help them in that situation. Right. So to me, it would be, you've identified them. Now let's attract them and let's grab them up to gear towards you. So it's starting to do more lives. It's starting to be intentional with your hashtags, your posts, whatever it is, start embodying being the expert to that avatar, so that you can start getting in front of them. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, you're right. And that's where it's just figuring out what their problem is. And that's where, I mean, fortunate for everybody who wants to create their avatar right now, a lot of people have the same problems, right? Because of COVID, because of lockdowns or wherever, depending where you're at, whatever's happening, like your avatar is pretty similar. And like, what are their thought processes right now? What are they facing? What challenges are they facing? So many people are facing the same challenges because there's one overwhelming problem in everybody's lives. So that's why with COVID, that's what I'm saying. Has your content shifted? That's why we wanted to talk about this today, because the problem has shifted. So if the problem has shifted, the solutions that people need to hear has shifted as well. And that's what needs to happen with content. So you're right. It is the problem solution framework, but that's why we wanted to talk about this today, because there's been a huge shift in what is the problem everybody faces. So if we're still going out there, like 3 reasons you need, like, if we're still going out there shooting the same content we would have before COVID, we're doing something wrong, right? We have to be able to speak to what are people going through right now. And right now, like I said, fortunate, unfortunate, because of COVID, everybody's going through similar problems. So let's make sure our content answers those problems.
And I think that content strategy is something that you've got to revisit like almost quarterly, if not monthly, because it does change. Because if you think about it, like right when COVID had happened, so many unknowns. There were so many people trying to shift and pivot, all this stuff, versus to now we're out in a pandemic. We went from being so scared, not knowing everybody's locked down in quarantine to, okay, you know what? Maybe it's not, I mean, it's obviously as bad as it seems, but we're starting to get it. And then now we're in the position where it's like, okay, people are shutting down again. Like more people are in the hospital. So it's like, there's been so many different phases. Like there was like the Tiger King.
Oh my God.
Like that was a good time. I feel like that was a good time. And now we're just, you see Carol Baskin's on Dancing with the Stars. Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
But it's just so many different ways that it has changed even during the pandemic, because there's different phases that we've gone through.
Yeah, that Tiger King was definitely a phase there. That was like week 1, wasn't it? That was like week 1, week 2.
But you know what? I feel like we were all like unified as a company, like not company, a country.
Yeah.
Did you know that I actually wrote him in jail and me and him had conversations?
Oh, you did? Like before all this happened, or like?
No, I mean, obviously, I'm from Oklahoma, and I remember like their little area.
No way.
But and actually, when I was little, I took a picture with one of his tigers. They were at a Walmart. Like that's how ethnic I am. Just a little bragging moment.
Wait, so you were talking with the Tiger King?
Yeah. So there's a thing called Smart Gel Mail.
Okay.
And you go there and you apply. You have to buy credits, of course, but it's like $5, $10.
Yeah.
And you request, you know, because that's the mail system that he had used in Grady County Jail, which was crazy. It's like 20 minutes from my small hometown I grew up in.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I had a couple of glasses of wine. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna
write the Tiger King.
I'm just gonna ask him how he's doing.
Right.
And sure enough, I got notification saying he'd accepted your request, and he was like talking about like whatever, you know, write to the president, ask him for a pardon. All this. But since then, he's actually unfortunately moved to jails. He's here in Texas somewhere.
Oh, no way.
Same system. So
have you wrote him since?
I have not wrote him since.
I've not wrote him since. All right.
He sent me his like boyfriend, fiance, whatever he is, email address to send money to for PayPal. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
That was interesting.
You're good.
It was definitely an interesting time.
Yeah, but no, you're right. There has been like multiple different like segments of even the pandemic, like everything going on. It's been broken up into different chapters almost. So it's the constant shift, or how you staying on top of it, and even how you keeping your content relevant. I know like Jay had a Tiger King video, didn't he? Where he was like sitting in his chair.
Yeah.
He had, like was petting a cat. He had some type of video that was like the Tiger King. And it's, you know, it's just how are you creating content that's staying relevant as well. I'm not saying to go out there and start becoming the news source for COVID-19. I mean, if that's the route you want to take, go ahead. But how are you playing off of what's happening to keep creating content and to keep your content relevant?
100%.
Yeah.
And then finding ways to, you know, reevaluate the current worries and the current situation. So like you said, obviously school systems, there's questions there. There's questions even like, you know, from like, you know, if me right now, if I was to get up and move to California, I wouldn't know what's going on right now. But from what I had heard is like no showings, it's on complete lockdown, whatever. You know, maybe I'm being a little dramatic because I personally don't know it all. Like that, if you were in California, like right now, going live and letting people know, hey, we can't show you guys homes. However,
here's what we can do.
Yeah, exactly. So letting people know what's the current solution to their problem.
I think that's great. Hollie, thank you so much for coming on here today. What we want to do is give you guys a quick update on how your content should be shifted. I hope this helps. Always tune into the Hollie and Krem Show every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Central. We'll see you guys next week.
Awesome. See you guys.